Breaking news. After radio silence from the government since the Renters' Rights Bill completed the committee stage in the House of Lords on the 15th of May, we finally now have a bit of clarity, some concrete news as I'm recording this on the 12th of June. In this video, I'm going to share the latest news on what's happening to the bill, and stick around to the end as I'm going to share my own thoughts on when I think the Renters' Rights Bill will come into force, because that's all we're wanting to know. And who am I? I'm Suzanne Smith, lawyer turned landlord, and I run the independent landlord.com website and this YouTube channel to bring reliable, trustworthy information to everyone in the private rented sector. And you can join well over 10,000 people and sign up for my free weekly newsletter at theindependentlandlord.com/subscribe. Right, what's the breaking news? Well, you might remember that after the election last year, the government was saying that the Renters' Rights Bill would come into force by the summer of 2025. Well, it's summer now and it's not in force. In fact, it hasn't cleared the House of Lords. So that's not going to happen now. And why is that? Well, the bill has been going through Parliament, and it's a really big bill. The latest version is 264 pages, and it's complicated. It went through the House of Commons really quickly, but it's been slower in the House of Lords. But that's not unusual for a large and complex bill. We had the committee stage in the House of Lords just after Easter, and it finished about a month ago on the 15th of May. And during the committee stage, lots of amendments were tabled by the opposition, almost 300, and they were debated over many days. Now, none of them were put to the vote. They were all withdrawn, other than the government amendments, and there are just a few minor ones. But that is absolutely normal for the committee stage. Many were what's called probing amendments, which means that they're just kind of looking to see whether the government might soften their stance on something. And so what happens then is the government goes away and has a think about whether there were any points that it can accommodate that were made during the committee stage. And they have a little rethink. Now, don't get your hopes up. They're not going to end the abolition of fixed terms or Section 21. And I imagine that they will reject most of the comments and most of the new amendments that will be tabled by the opposition. But there may be some movement around the edges. We can only hope. And I've certainly sent them my big long list of things that I'd like to see moved. Well, what happened yesterday, 11th of June, was that the government announced that the next stage, which is the report stage in the House of Lords, won't start until the 1st of July. So that's another more than 2 weeks away. So the report stage isn't actually a report. Sometimes I see that in social media. It's not something you download. Instead, the House will discuss the bill in detail, and they've scheduled 3 days, and it's due to end on the 15th of July. And they'll go through another lot of amendments, probably not quite as many as at the committee stage, but we'll have to see. And we'll also see if there's going to be some movement from the government, because it might well come at this stage, at the report stage. So why did I say it won't come into effect by the summer if that's due to finish on the 15th of July? Well, once the report stage ends, there are 2 more stages. And the next stage is the third reading. And that's when the House of Lords debates the bill again. And that usually starts at least 3 business days after the end of the report stage. And if you look at the calendar, there's not much time between the 16th of July and the 24th of July, which is when the House of Lords breaks up for the summer holidays until the 1st of September. They call that the summer recess. But the passage of the bill doesn't end at the third reading. In fact, that's when it gets interesting because if any amendments have been voted onto the bill by the House of Lords in the report stage and third reading, then those amendments will get sent to the House of Commons for consideration. And the House of Commons, they break up slightly earlier on the 22nd of July. And Labour don't have a majority in the House of Lords. So it may well be that some amendments get voted onto the bill by the opposition and the government doesn't agree with them. And if that happens, there'll be lots of jubilation from landlords. But that doesn't actually mean anything because the version that counts is the one that gets royal assent. And so if the House of Lords sends back the bill with amendments that the government doesn't like, there'll be a vote in the House of Commons, and it's what then is called the ping-pong stage, where it goes backwards and forwards, and the House of Commons might agree to some amendments and not to others. And this is called the consideration of amendments stage. And sometimes it's short, but for controversial bills, it can take longer. For instance, the Safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Act 2024, you might remember that. That took 5 weeks to clear, ping pong, but that was an unusual case. So, assuming the government cracks on with it, when Parliament returns after the summer on the 1st of September, there's only 2 weeks until another recess, and that's the time for the party conferences. So that brings us to the middle of October when they come back. And even assuming that everything goes through and we get royal assent in September or October, it doesn't come into force then, well, not properly, because the next stage is the publication of regulations. And this is because the Renters' Rights Bill really just provides a basic structure and a lot of the detail that we need as lawyers, letting agents, landlords, service providers, they come in regulations that are published afterwards. And for instance, we need to know what to put in the new compulsory written statement that we'll need to give tenants, and we'll probably include that in new tenancy agreements. And we'll need to know what the transition arrangements are, what bits of paper we're going to have to serve. There's a lot of stuff to do. And after that, there'll be the commencement date for the new assured tenancy regime. And this is when fixed terms are abolished, that the assured shortholder tenancies become assured tenancies, they become periodic, rolling from month to month. Section 21 will be abolished for new notices, and lots of other terms will come into effect, like the new right for tenants to have pets, the banning of rent in advance, no bidding, rental bidding, etc. And you can check out my video, the Renters' Rights Bill Explained in Under 10 Minutes video, if you'd like to know more information. And so the commencement date is the key date, as that's when big things change. Other things like the database and the ombudsman might come into date at a later stage. Now, the government has said they'll give us sufficient time to get ready. Let's hear it from Baroness Taylor, who's the Minister for Housing in the House of Lords.
That this government will ensure the sector has adequate notice of the system taking effect.
They've not actually said what sufficient time means. And there's a lot to do to get ready for when the Act comes into force, because it's really complex. Agreements and documents have to be written, all the statutory notices have to be rewritten, software recoded, training. And MHCLG, that's the Ministry of Housing, Community and Local Government, bit of a mouthful. They've said that they'll do an education campaign as well to make sure landlords and tenants understand the rules. And that all takes time. So what amount is sufficient? I would say that a reasonable amount of time is 12 months. 6 months would be really hard. So let's say that the bill gets royal assent in October. Maybe May 2026 is the earliest, or perhaps October 2026 would be more sensible. And it's really important to keep up to date, as things might move really quickly. Also, make sure you get your information from reliable sources, as there's so much rubbish out there, including on YouTube. And an easy and free way to do this is to sign up for my weekly newsletter at theindependentlandlord.com/subscribe. And you can check out my video, Renters' Rights Bill Explained in 10 Minutes, that I mentioned. I put out new videos all the time in this playlist. And if you found this useful, please do like it and also subscribe. See you soon.